Welcome to Federici's. What can I get for you guys?
Well, as hard as it is to believe, given our apparent ages, this is my son.
Seems about right.
Okay, good. My son is currently studying at a local pizza academy.
Really? Which one?
New York Pizza Academy.
Well, then I hate you, because I'm a Pizza Academy in New York man.
Oh, wonderful.
So, what fraternity are you pledging?
I'm not. There are no fraternities at New York Pizza Academy.
That's right. You correctly answered my trick question. Now I'm bound by Pizza Academy tradition to grant you any request.
Wow, this could not have gone any better.
We need to see all your delivery receipts from the last 2 months.
Oh, you got that delivery receipt exam coming up, huh? Oh, what a bear. Ooh. Here you go. Take your time. I'll be in the back trying to think of other ways to help you.
TBTL.
In a few hours, you're going to be smarter than anyone you've ever met.
Do you like to see what I see? A talking duck?
Yeah, that's it. I've been doing too much toot.
This is malicious fecal distribution.
You know, you're overthinking it, buddy. Yeah. I mean, just kind of see this as a fun thing to do where you make a little bread.
Our apologies.
It's okay.
Okay, we'll be right back. And you're off to an awesome start.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, all right. Hello, good morning, and welcome everyone to a Monday edition of TBTL, the show that just might be too beautiful to live.
That was the fanciest sentence I've ever heard. And I used to watch Frasier.
My name is Luke Burbank. I am your host.
You paint your bald spot?
What ball spot?
Coming to you from the intersection of Wilcox and Sunset Boulevard
California got sunshine.
in Hollywood, California. It's a beautiful Monday here in Southern California. We have managed to escape the so-called June gloom that comes around this time of year, and things are just looking absolutely spectacular.
Oh, Ma, Pa, it's just beautiful.
Perfect weather to bring you episode 4,494 in a collector series.
Let the fun begin.
We're getting close to 4,500. 4,500 shows. My goodness gracious. Hey, we've got some fun news today on the show. We have received a correct answer to the Great TBTL Billboard Hunt.
I'm in it to win it.
Of course, we've been giving clues for the last 5 weeks about the whereabouts of a TBTL billboard somewhere in this beautiful country. And people have been guessing, and somebody guessed it right. We'll tell you the latest on that whole situation when we are done recording today. I'm heading over to what would have to be probably Andrew's, maybe like Andrew's idea of the worst Monday he could go through, which would be to be filmed on national television doing a mayonnaise taste test.
There's a Hidden Valley Ranch party in my mouth.
We'll talk about that, too. Oh, and speaking of my good friend, a.k.a. the longest-running co-bro of the show, possibly best known for his depictions of the tall ships.
The soulful rocker from New Hampshire.
You know that guy? His name is Andrew Walsh, and he is joining me right now. Good morning, my friend.
Good morning, Luke. If you, like most people listening, and like myself, were wondering, who is that voice who plays the Pizza Academy guy in the 30 Rock clip we just heard?
You know, it sounded to me, can I put a guess out there that I already know is incorrect?
You can. I will set it up. I was looking it up while you're talking. I don't think I recognize this name, though I do believe maybe it's a character actor whose face we all recognize.
Okay. I already know it's not this person, but just purely to make our friend Phyllis Fletcher, to engage her in this conversation, because that's been a big problem for us over the years, is attracting the interest of P. Fletch.
Yeah.
And maintaining that engagement throughout the course of the program.
And not just listening, but interacting with the content.
Having thoughts about the show.
Yeah.
That's something, that's a nut we've yet to crack with our friend Phyllis. But it sounds like, and I know it isn't this guy, but it sounds like Artie Lang. One time of the Howard Stern show. Now, the reason I know it's not Artie Lang is because, first of all, you're probably familiar to some degree with that person.
Yeah.
And also, I believe at the time of the making of this, Artie Lang was either holed up in his penthouse in Hoboken, New Jersey with copious amounts of drugs, or he was in sober living, the result of the time he was holed up in his place in Hoboken with copious amounts of drugs. Like, this was during a period when Artie Lang, the comedian and performer, was not really up for performing. So anyway, that was me guessing at a person who I already know isn't the person. So why did I do that? Who knows? Please reveal the real answer, Mr. Walsh.
Well, it is an Artie Lang type, I will say. And I just want to say this, too, about Artie Lang. I'm not somebody who follows the ins and outs of that man's career very well. I know who he is. I know about some of his struggles. I am now reminded that he is was a regular on the Stern Show, and there was a lot of drama there. That is one of those names where you say it, and I get immediately worried about that man. Like, how is Artie Lang doing? Like, for real? Like,
he appears to be
is he doing better?
It is the strangest thing. Now, this is me speculating on someone that I've never met in real life, and who I don't have any particular insight into. But these are things I can tell you. I love that we've got the Great TBTL Billboard Hunt. I went in a robot car yesterday with Adelaide, which almost killed us. We have so much to talk about, and this is where I'm going to speculate on whether the performer Artie Lang. But here's what I can tell you that I have gleaned from the internet. Of course, he was doing very well professionally. He was a very successful stand-up comic. He was on the Stern Show. He was selling out comedy shows, making huge sums of money, and then also struggled with addiction. And kind of sort of at some point, after he went to sober living, I saw he was doing some of his community service, and what he was doing was pumping gas in New Jersey. Somebody saw him in New Jersey at a gas station pumping gas, which was somehow part of, I don't know if that was actually technically part of probation or just something they did with sober living where it was like, you need to just go do a job. And the other thing about Artie Lang is that his use of cocaine caused the full collapse of his nose.
I know.
Which is a visually really kind of unsettling thing to see, obviously. And he's had surgeries on it to sort of repair it from its most extreme kind of degradation. And here's my point in all this. You see this clip, somebody's talking to Artie Lang, and he's pumping gas at a station in New Jersey, a gas station, and his nose is still bearing some of the effects of what his lifestyle was. And the guy is beaming. The guy is totally happy because he's actually sober. And the fact that we haven't seen him in public, I think, is a good sign. Like, it seems like his life completely changed from the things about a life that many of us might think would give the life, I don't want to say meaning, but like, could you be a comedian earning $300,000 to perform at Harrah's and then turn around and blow $300,000 at the tables, which was the kind of thing that he did a lot, you know, and have this kind of level of fame with a certain demographic, me being in that demographic? Or could you be pumping gas in New Jersey but sober? And it would appear that that's the road to happiness for the guy. So I feel encouraged on his behalf and as a fan of his work.
I'm looking this up. He was spotted at this gas station. I'm guessing here multiple times, although I'm not sure, but there's a write-up about it.
Really? I haven't seen a write-up. I only saw the little quick cell phone video.
Well, it was a write-up in the Philly Voice here from May of 2019.
By the way, that was my mom's nickname.
The Philly Voice. Yeah, once she moved.
The Philly Voice.
She moved away from there, yeah. I always wanted one of those. Actually, did somebody once call me Ohio and it filled me with life? Because I really felt like
your nickname being where you're from. Now that's cool.
That's very nom, right?
Yeah.
I'm trying to think, was I visiting Vietnam just as a tourist and somebody called me Ohio and I really felt like I was in it. Oh, by the way, so that was 6 years ago. I don't know what Artie's doing now, but you're right. It looked like it was it was part of his rehab program in some way. How? I'm not exactly
6
sure.
years ago,
but
by the way.
That's the thing, right? It's like 2019 that was last year. No, wait, that was before the worldwide pandemic. Let's see here. Jimmy Palumbo would be. Oh,
sure.
Do you know that name?
No, that was a joke.
You might.
Is that our pizza guy?
I wouldn't know, like, if you had interviewed Jimmy Palumbo, but Jimmy Palumbo, he's the pizza guy from that 30 Rock bit, and when you see his face, you're like, oh yeah, I've seen it. It looks like maybe he played a doorman in Arrested Development. It looks like he's a working actor who like really fits. His headshot, I will say, he's wearing a fedora And I only
and
see
kind
his
of a bowling
shoulders
shirt,
and
maybe.
You're looking at that too. Yeah, that kind of bowling shirt, which is that that's a choice that I probably wouldn't make. But aside from that, I'm happy for him.
Yeah, I love that scene too. That scene from 30 Rock. You know what I have been just you heard me playing some of the audio from something that I said was 30 Rock adjacent. But I have been really getting into Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt. Speaking of things from 6 years ago, I had after we did the show on Friday, I had hours and hours and hours of CBS travel expense reports to file, which just involves so much tedium where it's go into Concur and then it says this is how much the Lyft ride was, and then I have to go into the Lyft app and I have to find the ride, and then I have to screen cap the receipt, and then I have to text the receipt to myself on my other computer, drag it into the system, enter all the info. It's very time consuming, and I'm always kind of putting it off until I start getting emails going, we're going to turn this credit card off.
Yeah.
And so I decided on Friday to make the time go by faster, or just by watching Kimmy Schmidt. And I must have watched an entire season of that show, and it is so good. So unbelievable. I know I'm not really telling you anything, but I just throw that out there. Next time you have to do something tedious that doesn't involve a lot of intense thought, it's just repetitive, throw some Kimmy Schmidt on there and the time will fly by.
Yeah, I think that's a good use of that show as well. I like that show a lot too. There were some parts of it that I found a little bit cringy, parts that had to do with and I feel like this is a Tina Fey weak spot. Her boyfriend, I don't know.
Dong. You didn't like the nickname of her boyfriend.
Yeah. Well, that's rough in and of itself. But also this depiction of college life. I don't know if you got into that and sort of almost they weren't using the word woke, but sort of making fun of what we would say woke college life. Some of that stuff is just so cringy. And it just feels I don't know, the Tina Fey, that's always something that seems like she wants to make statements on, but I feel always sort of clumsily, sort of. So that sort of, it's weird that
it was a little heavy-handed, although I thought it was interesting. That's literally the season I watched. I thought what was interesting about that, honestly, is that definitely we get the joke, and you're just going at this over and over again. I do think when do you think that season of Kimmy Schmidt was being broadcast or was being put out there?
Well, I was going to ask you. I don't think that this sort of storyline is limited to a season, so I don't know exactly what you've seen and what you haven't. But I think Kimmy Schmidt probably was mid to 20 teens. I'm going to guess maybe 2015 ish.
I think it's interesting. Well, what I was thinking, because basically what happens is one of the characters, Jane Krakowski's stepdaughter, I think, or ex-stepdaughter, or the stepdaughter of her ex, is going to college, is going to Columbia. And then Kimmy Schmidt, the main character, ends up going to Columbia. And all of these students are very kind of getting consent for everything and talking about kind of feminism and all this stuff in a very the joke being, or the critique being that college students are too woke and are using are too obsessed with, I don't think actually pronouns comes up in it, but the kind of overall vibe is college kids are using this made-up language to navigate their world, and made-up ideas to navigate their world that are silly and mockable, right? Would you say that's the general, general energy?
Okay, so this is the one where she has the 3 roommates, or the 2 or 3 roommates.
Yeah.
I think that is kind of that probably is the peak of it. And what's his name? And the one sort of saving grace is who's the really charming guy from Hamilton?
From Hamilton.
Yeah, is he in this season as well? I do like
he's
him.
Her love interest.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. But yeah.
I guess I agree with you. I thought that the comedy was really heavy-handed. I thought it was interesting, the timing of that critique, because I feel I think that's a critique that's kind of now come out into the open and is being given some more consideration, probably by people who at a certain time would not have publicly given it consideration. I think there was a period of time on the left where any critique of that kind of basically saying maybe some of these public institutions have created an environment that, in trying to be inclusive, has actually become stifling. I think there would have been a time that making that critique would have actually kind of put you on the outside of the way that the movement was thinking. and that now I think that nowadays people can say that and there's probably very little pushback on it because everything is just in complete disarray. But I was wondering while watching it, like, was Tina Fey making that critique? And again, I don't think it's that funny, and I think she overdid it. But was she making that at a time that critique was actually kind of edgy? In other words, at a time where when you were pushing back on that, you could kind of, I don't want to say find yourself canceled, but there would be a strong reaction to it that would actually maybe carry some weight.
I do think that she was doing it before a lot of people were talking. I mean, she might have rankled some people. I think you know this, but I will just say for the record, like, I think that those jokes can be made well. I just what I cringe at isn't even her trying to make the point, because I would feel like if somebody could win me over with some humor around that, it would be somebody like Tina Fey. But it's because I've seen this in some of her other projects as well, like when the sort of like kind of, you know, even before people called it woke, kind of like what she might have called political correctness or whatever. Like lots of times when that is brought up, it is sort of cringy. I feel like 30 Rock was a really interesting example, because here's 30 Rock, and she is actually portraying a character who is sometimes a little racist, right? And like, but knowingly so. And the joke isn't like, look how funny it is to be racist. It's kind of like, oh, she sort of said something in front of, like, there's these little things of like, I can't. This is such a dumb example to go to, but it sticks in my head. Like, she pronounces Donald Glover Donald Glover, and I never understood why. But a friend of mine said, I think it's because she's kind of like, because he's a black man, she assumes his name, and it just goes by very quickly. And I actually think that's sort of like, that is not a racist joke. That is a joke about somebody who's just a little mildly racist, maybe in your brain.
Yeah,
and there's little moments of that, and I can't think of other examples right now throughout 30 Rock that I actually think are pretty cutting and sharp, and they just stick. And then you have this Kimmy Schmidt version of it, which is just. It's so corny and over the top, and I hate to say it, I don't want to call anybody out specifically too much, but the actor who plays the college student, the stepdaughter or whatever, who's kind of the college age girl in this, young woman, like, just can't handle it. Like, just can't, whatever is being asked, I don't think that actor can handle it, and I really think the script is not doing any favors. It's so clumsy and clunky and cringy.
I agree with you. I was like, oh, we're still doing this? Like, I kept coming back to the joke, and I just like, okay, can we move on to Titus doing something funny, please? Here?
Right, and then who steals the show? But, you know, the over-the-top gay black man, you know, Titus is like the star of the show, and talk about like just when Kimmy Schmidt is just doing everything right, is when he's on screen.
I would argue that Amy Sedaris steals that season. Amy Sedaris' character is like adrenochrome of comedy. Like, one tiny drop under the tongue, and it's all it takes. Like, she probably has 10 lines in the season, but they're like, each one is so funny.
Now, is that I get it? She also had, I believe, a couple of cameos on Broad City. I could be wrong about that.
Oh, okay.
But which show do you know? Does she claim to be bullied with, or cyberbullied within an inch of her life? Was that?
That would have to be Broad City.
That was Broad City.
I think because you know, I'm saying that because I think I've seen all of her performance in Kimmy Schmidt now, and I don't remember that. I mean, I remember that line from this show.
Yeah.
So by the process of like elimination, I'm going to say Broad City. But
is this the one though where she? I think it's Kimmy Schmidt. There's just one moment, and if you're doing like paperwork, you might not notice it, but it happens so quickly, where she walks into an apartment and flips off her shoes without stopping before she walks on a new carpet or something like that. I don't know why it's so a bit. She just walks into a room so full of energy and doesn't stop for one thing, and like the next thing you know, her shoes are just like both flipped off. Do you have any idea what I'm talking about?
Yes, I think that's been memeified. I think I saw it. I think I might have seen it as a clip at some point, but she just is like, she is just the lines that they write for her, and her delivery of the lines is just like so amazingly perfect. By the way, speaking of, I don't know, cinematic experiences, probably today's not the day to get into it because we have a lot to do. And also I don't want to spoil anything, but I did see the movie 28 Years Later this weekend.
Oh, interesting. I've been wondering whether or not I'm going to see that.
I did not think this movie... So Saturday, I'm not sure how it was in Seattle, but man, Saturday was an absolute weather shit show in Portland. It was just like the sky was black. It was raining. I guess there was a new record set for the coldest day on that date or something. It was just miserable. And so Becca and I went to see a movie, and it was like basically seemed like the most intriguing movie available at the time we wanted to see a movie. And so I've seen it. I didn't realize though, like it's like I was hanging out with Addie yesterday here in LA, and she was saying how she's thinking about going to see it, and like it's been coming up on a lot of lists. Like it's getting a lot more buzz than I was expecting it to get. And yeah, it's really something is what I will say about that movie. It's something. And I want to talk about it with you, but I'm also a little bit worried about spoilers. And I don't know, maybe we wait to see if you end up seeing it, and which again, no pressure. But then if you do, then we could like do an episode where we just like say, look, this is going to be spoilered. And so don't listen to the next 20 minutes. And by that, I mean 2 hours. Let's just say this. I'll just put this out. This doesn't spoil anything. Anatomically correct alpha zombie. Those words.
Sticks in your head a little bit, huh?
And in your mind.
I loved the first one. I saw the first one.
I did too.
I saw it twice in the theater because they re-released it with like an alternate ending or whatever. So Vives and I were very into the first one. I remember
so good.
Second one I think had a different director or something. So we saw it in the theater, and then just sort of thought like it was okay. But now is Danny Boyle back for this one? Is this
yes?
okay,
he's directing this one.
Yeah. So this was his original thing, which makes it tempting. But Luke, do you know the reason I'm hesitating about going to see it really doesn't even have to do with whether or not it's going to live up to the first one or whether or not I'm going to enjoy it. I'm not the same person I was when the first one came out. I am such a wimp these days. I never loved horror movies anyway, but I did have a soft spot in my heart for like zombie movies because of the George Romero stuff and Night of the Living Dead and all of those. Like I really loved those in college.
Plus every party that we used to have back in the day, you and I, you would constantly go, should zombies be allowed to run? That would be like one of your icebreaker questions. You would never shut up about that.
Well, you're kind of painting that in a somewhat obnoxious light. My icebreaker used to be brains, and you were like, Andrew, that's getting a little bit. Yeah, it was on your advice that I changed it. You're like, turn it into a question, and so you sat me down one time. It was like, what's the famous? You were trying to teach me how to be at parties and have kind of be. You know, how to handle social life. And you sat me down and you said, listen, what you're doing is you're opening with a statement. You're saying brains. And that doesn't give the person
anywhere
you're
for
conversing.
the audience to go,
nobody's going. So like if you come in and you say brains, zombies, should they be fast or not? That gives people something to like talk about. So that's why I did that. Apparently it sounds like I leaned on it too much for your taste.
A little bit, but you know, I mean, people were into it at the time, if I remember right.
Well, it started off okay, certainly. Then I went to Is Bowling a Sport? Anyway.
It's the classic.
You know what I was going with there. I'm just too scared. I don't know, man. Like, it has to be like a really, really good movie in order to get me to go to see a scary one.
I would say it's interestingly enough, and again, now we're just sort of talking about the movie, but I'm doing it in a very kind of 30,000 foot way, so it's not spoiling anything. There is, you know, a certain amount of kind of gore, and I guess you could say, I don't even know if it's gratuitous gore. It's because like it's a movie with zombies, and so the idea is there will be gore.
There will be gore.
Idea.
Yes,
that's a good name for a movie. So there, and I don't watch a lot of movies like this. So there were a couple times where I was like, "Ooh, did we have to see that?" And I was like, "Well, we kind of, I guess, did. That's the point of this kind of movie."
Yeah,
it wasn't. I felt like it wasn't horrific actually. Like what it didn't have were like, you know, 15 scenes where the person is hiding behind a wall and the zombie / alien / predator, you know, fill in your like scary sort of character in one of these movies. You know, there's the classic, you know, Ripley hiding behind a thing as the alien is going by and looking for her, and is the alien going to figure out that she's there, that kind of thing. There wasn't as much of that as you might have expected. So the movie wasn't super scary to me. It was more like it was like I said, it was something because it's 28 years in the future, and there's this community of people that are living kind of almost like a Middle Ages kind of existence, or maybe more like a a late 1800s existence because they're quarantined on this island because there's still, there's still zombies out there. And so they're not allowed to leave because they could be infected. And it's kind of about this like community life of these people. And then there's just one main character and he kind of goes on this vision quest or whatever. But like, it's not just kind of like, it's not just zombies from front to back. It's a lot of other stuff that's kind of not zombie actually. And that's
good. That's what I like. I like post-apocalyptic, like how do you survive as humans?
Yeah,
that's good.
It's some of that. I wanted there to be more of it, and then the movie just kind of like it takes what to me felt like a wild turn, maybe 3/4 of the way through, where it just felt like it kind of became a different sort of movie, and then at the very end, it was just kind of like. I like looked over at Becca and I was like, "Oh, is this how this is? Okay, this is what's happening now in this film." That's all I'll say so let's not give it away. But let's just say if you do find yourself seeing it, maybe we'll talk about it then, which will also give it a little more time to kind of marinate and also for people to see it. So we will spoil it for a few less folks.
It would be amazing if it was a reverse Sinners. I don't know if I can make that joke. I don't know if I can make that joke without spoiling it too much, but I think people mostly know what the deal with Sinners is, and it's been out for a little bit now, but it starts as a pretty straightforward movie where you're meeting all of these characters and falling in love with them and just like kind of really getting into this groove of this plot, and then it becomes like halfway through like supernatural. Like there's no hint of supernatural, and then boom, it becomes a supernatural movie. And I think most people know that. It would be really interesting, and by the way, you'll be unsurprised, even though there are some spectacular things that happen throughout the film, and there's a reason it would be described as a tour de force. I definitely was a first half of Sinners kind of guy. Like, that's my vibe. I'm not into the supernatural as much. But it'd be really amazing to start a movie that has all this supernatural action and then just settle into a nice little more like kind of dramatic, get to know these characters and their background
It's like, what
situation.
if supernatural people were trying to sell real estate?
Right, exactly.
It just starts out Sinners and it just downshifts into Glenn Ross, which is extremely... grounded, like practical real world issues with trying to get people to buy overpriced real estate. This
is a torture joke too, but as you said something about it being like gratuitous gore. Then you're like, could it be gratuitous gore? I mean, that's sort of the point of this kind of movie. And I started thinking about the Wes Anderson film that is out now, because I'm still on the fence about that one. I was like, what if somebody had like gratuitous knolling? Like this is gratuitous knolling. Well, it's a Wes Anderson
film. Is knolling
film.
a font? Is that a font term?
What's knolling? It's that like photo technique where you're like the camera's above something flat and you have your pocket watch and your comb and your thing. You know what I mean?
That's called knolling.
I think it's called knolling.
I
right?
had no idea there was a name for that.
Had
but I know
idea?
exactly what you're talking.
You know what I'm talking about? The overhead shot of a bunch of trinkets that are laid out in some sort of way.
No, 100%. I just didn't know that was the term for
But
it.
I love the idea of gratuitous knolling. Like, do we really need more of this knoll? I mean, Wes Anderson is just like, you go and it's just gratuitous knolling.
Can we take 5 minutes on that movie? What's the Phoenician Dilemma?
It's
or
the
something?
Phoenician scheme or something. Let me look it up. I have not seen it. Have you?
I have not seen it either. I was actually talking about it with Addie yesterday, who has also not seen it. But she, I thought, made a very interesting point about it, because I said, I don't understand what the point of going to see this new Wes Anderson movie is, because it's every Wes Anderson movie. And I said to her, I go, you and I could make a Wes Anderson movie at this point. We would know who to cast. We would know how to write the dialogue so that it was very sort of like reserved and kind of withholding in a way and understated. We would know how to frame the actors. We would know how to costume them. Like, we know how to do a Wes Anderson thing because we've all seen so much of it. And she said, yeah, but think about it this way. He is just going further and further into his world. And he is basically perfecting this thing, or whatever that means to him, as opposed to, because I was using Paul Thomas Anderson as a counter. I was saying the difference between Boogie Nights and There Will Be Blood is really interesting to me, or Punch Drunk Love. These are all Paul Thomas Anderson movies. And I love that he makes these movies that look really different. And she said, yeah, but that's not what Wes Anderson's trying to do. Wes Anderson is on this like lifetime art project to perfectly crystallize what his creative vision is. And it's this stuff. And that's okay. Like, it's not necessarily expected that a great painter, sudden, like Cezanne, we're not asking for Cezanne to suddenly start painting exactly or painting more like Picasso or more like, Da Vinci or something. It's like, and anyway, so I thought, oh, that's actually kind of a good point. Like I was thinking of it like, why is Wes Anderson doing this anymore? Why is he making these movies that feel so similar to me and so in a way predictable, but he's on some kind of artistic journey about getting it's. And the other thing she said was, she goes, do you think he hasn't heard the feedback that these movies, do we think that Wes Anderson, the filmmaker, is unaware of the fact that his movies have a similar aesthetic? Of course not. He's way ahead of us on that whole thing, and he is deciding to do this for some reason. And the other thing is, he has made a couple of my favorite movies in the history of the world, specifically Rushmore. So it's like I don't know why it is that I spent the last week just kind of ruminating on that Wes Anderson movie, being like, what are you doing, Wes? It's like, I don't know, but I'm gonna let him do it because the man made Rushmore. That's all he has to do for the rest of his life for me.
Well, that's I think you're getting into an interesting question about, well, how are we judging these things? And obviously I love Wes Anderson, and like you said, like for me, my favorite one would be Royal Tenenbaums. That one is
sure.
I don't think that's a super unique take on that, but obviously love Wes Anderson, but I can't draw the connection or the parallel to art that you collect like a painting, because that's not my world. But I can maybe group in movies and music together in a certain way, because like you're making an argument for, well, I don't want to go see that because I've already seen it before. And your daughter is saying, yeah, but this is his artistic journey. And I just sort of feel like those are two very different arguments. Like, are you going to let him make it? Of course, everybody can make whatever art they want. The question is, like, is it still entertaining to me? And is it something that I'm going to want to put on my record player or sit in a movie theater and watch? And I'll be honest with you, and it is the Phoenician Scheme. I don't know what it is, but I saw the trailer for this one, and I'm like, oh, yeah, maybe I will go see the Phoenician Scheme. It seemed like a pretty fun romp. For some reason, I was not interested in Asteroid City. I don't know why. I have no idea. I haven't read that much about either one of them. Maybe Asteroid City is really good and Phoenician Scheme isn't. I don't know. Maybe I'll see them both at some point. But it's kind of like, what is the argument here? The argument of an artist being allowed to follow their creative endeavors. Of course, every artist is allowed to do that. But is it like entertaining to me? And you might have like a musician who's doing something similar too, who's like just getting, instead of like kind of being very vast in their scope or whatever, like even Beyonce releasing a Western, you know what I mean? You might instead have the artists who are just like, I'm just going to keep drilling down on this one specific thing I do until I perfect it. And at a certain point, you might lose the audience because the audience is like, well, I've kind of heard this already, but you're maybe not doing it for the audience. So,
but see, I hadn't thought about it that way. So basically, my argument was, my question was, why is Wes Anderson making the same film over and over instead of branching out and doing other interesting stuff? And Addie's response was, because he's trying to perfect this one thing, not the question of should he be allowed to make it, or even will I go to the movie or not. But like, I hadn't even considered the idea that like, oh yeah, Wes Anderson I hadn't considered the idea that he's aware that his movies look similar.
Nice.
Like, it's somehow in my mind, I was like, has anyone told him? Has he, like, because Wes, we're starting to notice some similarities here in how these films are presented and how the characters tend to behave, like, which is insane that I hadn't really considered the fact that he's aware of that and that he's doing something very intentional here, whether it's for me or not at this point. It's not unintentional on his part. Just, based on everything we know about the guy.
Do you remember, we talked about this a little bit, I think the last Wes Anderson I saw might have been the last one you saw. I'm not sure.
French Dispatch?
The French Dispatch, yeah. And remember we talked about how he actually includes, I think in the last scene, or certainly the last sort of like part of that movie, I feel like he does this dialogue, or he writes this dialogue that is in the movie that is like literally sort of addressing this stuff. It's more like addressing maybe not the style of his movies, but the fact that that some people feel like they lack an emotional substance, sort of, or lack emotional substance. And there's some scene, I don't remember it that well because I only saw it way back then, but I remember talking to you about it, that like I think Bill Murray might play a writer and somebody else is an editor, or vice versa. And the editor is saying like there's no emotional weight here. There's nothing. And the writer is saying that is the point. That is the point of what I am doing, and the emotion is in the lack of emotion, or something along those lines. I'm butchering it
I remember
now.
us having that conversation because it's kind of like a New Yorker parody, right? The French Dispatch.
Think so. Yeah, it's like a magazine.
And so yeah. Well, I probably won't see the Phoenician Scheme, but I'm not. I'm going to stay open-minded and open-hearted to the. Speaking of these filmmakers, by the way, the new P.T. Anderson film with Leonardo DiCaprio looks really
remind
kind
me.
of
What
interesting.
is it again?
Well, I don't really know what it's about, except Leo DiCaprio is some kind of. I watched the trailer like 2 times. He's some kind of a gun shooter guy who's down on his luck, and his, I think, maybe wife or girlfriend, who at one point is pregnant but firing like an AK-47. It's like, I'll say they're running around doing stuff. Like, I don't really have any clarity on what the movie is about, but Paul Thomas Anderson is one of those directors for me that I will just see any movie that he makes.
Yeah.
Like, I don't like the trailer I was more confused about the movie after watching the trailer than I would have been if I just heard the name of the movie. But I was like, I'll allow it. I'm going to go see this when it comes out because this person has consistently made films that I find extremely compelling, even if a lot of the time, like There Will Be Blood's a perfect example. I didn't know what the hell was going on in that movie for 97% of it, but I still watched it. I was quite intrigued by watching it.
I'm back in. The worst mistake the devil ever made was showing me that I have access to Inherent Vice on like one of the streaming services. I am now in a mode where I just this weekend, once again, like I just put it on sort of in the background. I think I am going for some sort of like Guinness Book of World Records, the man who has watched the beginning of Inherent Vice the most without really making it past the 45-minute mark, because then I just like sort of like wander away or whatever. It is just such a beautiful movie. And yeah, this new one coming out is called One Battle After Another, and I saw a trailer or something for it.
It's crazy.
It seems like a lot of
DiCaprio's like on that
action.
payphone.
I have a vague memory of him being in a hallway, like looking over his shoulder and being like, I gotta see this movie. But is it a movie about a man who's in a hallway looking over his shoulder? Because that's all I remember about it, and it got me.
In the style that only Paul Thomas Anderson could make it.
Yes.
I mean, we've all seen, we've seen a lot of movies about a lot of guys in a lot of hallways. But this is getting the P.T. Anderson treatment, Andrew.
Wait a second. This is based on a Thomas Pynchon novel.
Are you
Am I
kidding
saying
me?
his name right? Isn't Inherent Vice
But isn't that the
also?
guy who wrote Inherent Vice?
I thought so. And am I saying his last name correctly? I might be embarrassing myself
Andrew,
here.
if you think I know how to say that person's last name, you have not spent the last 4,000 episodes of TBTL with me.
He's doing 2 Pynchons in a row, if I'm saying that name right, because this one is another.
Throw Gravity's Rainbow in, and you've got the Holy Trinity.
Oh, man. So I'm excited to be confused again.
Yeah, I'm going to give this one a day in court, as our good friend Camaro Kev likes to say. Yesterday, Addie and I know we need to get to the TBTL Billboard Hunt little announcement that we have in a moment, but Addie and I took a Waymo yesterday from her place back here to the hotel. Those are the driverless cars, which they now have here in Los Angeles. And something happened, Andrew, that I thought was kind of interesting, which was, at a certain point, we were driving along whatever road here in Hollywood, and we had a green light. Our car had a green light, and yet there were other cars. We were taking a left at an intersection. So imagine you're riding in a car, you're approaching the intersection, and now you're going to take a left. There's also oncoming traffic. Now, the oncoming traffic has the right of way, right? You can imagine this. Like when you're taking a left at a green light, you let the oncoming traffic come through, and then you take your left. And we're riding along in this robot car, and we get to where we're going to do our left turn, and this thing whips a left turn practically right in front of an oncoming truck.
Good Lord.
And I'm in the back passenger side seat. So, like, I am the person most likely to get T-boned in this scenario if we were to get T-boned. Obviously, we did not get T-boned because I'm here talking to you, but it was way closer than I thought a robot car would allow for. And my theory of the case is the robot cars are going to drive differently than we humans are, because what the robot car is doing is constant equations about physics. And what the robot car did was it said this oncoming truck is going X number of miles an hour. We are X number of feet from oncoming truck. Taking a left takes us X amount of time. And it's just doing this equation. And we didn't get hit, but it felt really dicey to me. But it's what you make if you are not a person, but a robot. It is the decision that you make because you are just doing the physics and the geometry on we can make this left turn based on the rate of speed of this vehicle oncoming, et cetera, and how many feet we need to cross. It was the mathematically correct decision, but it scared the patootie out of me.
Well, that's my question for you, and I don't want to be...
Okay, T-Bone. Time for some serious crunching.
Just need to get that out of the way. What's that? I know. You just said T-Bone. So if you say T-Bone 3 times,
Okay,
I gotta
T-Bone.
play this.
Time
Love
for
it.
some serious crunching.
I'm into it.
I know who you are. I'm into it. That's another drop.
I get it.
I get it. Was that Jenny Marbles? Is that
Jenna Marbles?
It might be Jenna Marbles. God, we're going back.
Man, early influencer days.
Yeah. I guess I was going to ask you, and I'm trying to set this up the right way. If you were in a car with a human driver and they pulled that, especially if it's somebody you kind of know, you know what I mean? Because sometimes I'll be in the car with a human driver who's like a Lyft driver or something, and they pull a move like that. I'm like, oh, God, this guy's a little aggressive or whatever. But, you know, maybe you're in the car with somebody you know that you trust. You don't have that feeling of like, who is this person? I'm wondering if this unprotected left would have felt as jarring, or if you're also just on edge a little bit more, because you're like constantly aware of the fact that you're in a self-driving car.
I was definitely more on edge. I think this is maybe the 3rd or 4th time I've been in one of these, and I was more on edge because I had my daughter in the car, and this was my idea. But I was like, have you ever been in one of these Waymos? And then I realized at some point, oh, I'm throwing my one and only child, and like one of the most important people on this planet to me, at the mercy of a robot car driving an electric Jaguar. And so I was a little nervous. And also LA is a crazy place for this, because the thing is, there's so many times that you need, by the way, as I'm talking to you, I'm observing a Waymo sitting on Sunset right now, just hanging around looking looking to pick up a fare. Oh, by the way, on my jog this morning on Sunset, I also jogged past a Samo. It's not called a Samo here, but the little moving box that they had a version of on the John Mulaney show. This one was called Connor, which was way too human for me. Don't name the box Connor. I don't
Connor
like it.
and I know we have listeners named Connor. There's just something about that as just being such a just down the middle name. You know what I mean? It's not even like, I don't know.
Yeah. It's
jazz.
not somehow robotic,
or
like it's not futuristic.
We call it
just
Trevor.
Connor.
This is Trevor.
Yeah.
And this is Connor. And they're robots.
It was just, and again, this is now, by the way, Andrew, 2 Waymos, sitting at the intersection. I'm now looking at 2 of them. So, boy, there's a lot around here. But the thing about driving in LA, as you know, having lived here, is there are so many times where what you kind of have to do is go a little bit out of your lane, because let's just say there's a large moving truck and it's parked on the right-hand side of the road, but it's sticking out so far that you can't just stay exactly in your marked lane. You've got to go a little bit into the other, the other lane of traffic for whatever reason. And people are just doing crazy stuff all the time. And basically, I was thinking, the number one thing you would think you would program into one of these autonomous vehicles is stay in your lane. Like, that is like the prime directive, right? It's just like, do not go outside of the lane, because then we have chaos. If you've authorized this vehicle to just start going out of the lane, how does it know when to do that and when to not do that? And yet that's what it was doing. It was just doing whatever it needed to do to get us where we were going and kind of bump out of our, but anyway, it had me, I was definitely on edge. So to answer your question, if I was in the car with you and you made this left turn, I might have responded to you like, oh, all right, Speed Racer. But I wouldn't have felt visceral fear. I felt visceral fear as this thing decided to like gun it for this left, because I just thought, like, did its brain break? Yeah. Does it know what it's doing? And the thing is, it kind of does. And there's a similar or something that's kind of analogous to this, I guess, is like my car. I have a Mazda. It's got a cruise control setting, because it's got all that radar and LiDAR and stuff as well. Not to the degree that a Waymo does, but it has enough of it that if you put it on cruise control, then, and I don't know if your and Genevieve's car has this, but like, it will stop. You can tell it, I want to make sure that I never get closer than 3 car lengths to the car in front of me. And so if you're coming up on, like, you're on the freeway and you're coming up on like a traffic jam, as you get closer to the stopped traffic, the car will slow down and it will maintain the distance, because it's, checking in. But let me tell you, Andrew, it always starts braking later than I would have. because it's a robot and it understands physics, and it's like this is the point at which you actually need to start braking to slow down and then make a stop before these cars. And I always think it's not going to do it. And it's like I end up oftentimes overriding it because I think as a human being, I have a different read of the situation, which is probably a little bit more sort of fear-based and much less math-based. It understands mathematically. Again, I keep going back between, I don't know if this is physics or math. Maybe it's both, and maybe physics is math. But it understands that you don't actually have to start braking as far in advance as I typically brake. But I don't like that. It makes me very uncomfortable. So I think that that's what these autonomous vehicles are doing is they're, in a way, it seems like they're driving more aggressively, but they're probably driving more sort of realistically because they're not emotional about it. They don't have fear. They just are like, this is the rate of speed that we're at. This is the number of feet between now and when we need the rate of speed to be something else. And the math on that is just, it is what it is.
Yeah, although there are probably people listening, and I'm not even making this argument because I don't know enough about this, and I don't have like really intense feelings about it one way or the other, but I know some of our listeners do and are very anti these self-driving cars because, you know, when we talk about them, we just get kind of like, not outraged at us, but just emails just saying these things are just dangerous, like they should not be on the road.
Should we not have sponsored a self-driving car for our bit for next year now that we've done the billboard?
You know, the thing that you mentioned seeing one of the little robots that I guess you saw Connor, you saw
I saw
Trevor.
Connor out there.
Yeah.
And again, the thing was, Andrew, it was 7 a.m. on Sunset. It wasn't
and it
for
was smoking.
Effect.
It was doing a stroll of shame. It was doing a roll of shame.
Exactly. It was just so normalized. It was so like not like it's not on stage at like CNET in Vegas and somebody is demoing that this can happen. This is just a thing that was taking somebody some shit at 7 a.m. on Sunset. It was the banality of it was really kind of crazy to me.
I was going to say, I always cringe when I think of that because you called it a same-o. Like I hate it when I think something really dumb and then realize my dumbness publicly on the show. The norm charlatan would be a huge, that would be like, I think the Uber example of that. But also you telling me after we talked about Samo and the John Mulaney show so much on the show, realizing that Samo wasn't a real brand, that was just something that they made up for the show, that Samo was just like, you know, it sounds like Waymo. I'm like, of course Samo isn't, because I knew that those robots were a real thing. Like they've been a real thing for a while. I didn't realize that they weren't actually called Samo. So when you say that, I always cringe a little bit like, oh, God damn, that's right. I had that embarrassing moment on the show, but I have not had the chance to really take advantage of
Would you ride in one of
these
these Waymos?
I think I would. One thing that I was also sort of contemplating as you were asking about, like, or sort of hinted at the functionality of the car that Genevieve and I have. We don't have any of that stuff. Like we don't even get a beep if you go backwards and get close to a car. We don't. And then it occurred to me, I'm like, well, our car is not super new, but I think it's a 2017. You know, it's less than 10 years old, I guess, but it's also a manual transmission. And I started to get a little wistful there. Part of me wants to get a new car eventually because I've been seeing those, Vives and I are both a little bit in love with those new electric VW buses that are real retro
looking. I saw one of those.
Oh my God, they're so cute.
Yesterday, they're called an ID Buzz. I'd never seen one in real life.
They're
and
so
I
cute.
was like, it was like the Blue Angels were flying over. I was like,
right.
Eddie,
I know.
it's the electric bus. A yellow one of those,
they're
Andrew?
like candy, Luke. And I see it, and I'm like, I want to get that. But then the other part of me is like, no, I literally want to drive the 2017 Golf that we've been driving until it literally can't drive anymore, which would probably be near the end of my life because these things last forever, because it's probably the last manual transmission we'll ever have. Like you can't have any of this self-driving stuff or the beeps and the bops without, if you're just driving a manual transmission, which really makes me just want to like hang on to this thing forever.
Yeah, I was, I go back and forth. Definitely riding in this Waymo yesterday made me feel like we're very it seems like we're very close to a lot more autonomous vehicles happening because, again, the like kind of dicey left turn notwithstanding, this ride was flawless. Came and picked us up. We got in, drove us to the place without any incident really other than that left turn. But like it was just like, oh, this is like possible. This thing is totally effective at doing this job. Now maybe there's, it's harder to try to have it drive you to Denver or something, because of a whole bunch of things. I don't know if if you can it seems like the freeway would be easier, right? Like if this thing can drive around Los Angeles, it seems like getting on I-5 and going north is a much easier ask for it in terms of, just like stuff that it's got to figure out. But like, it definitely felt like, oh, this is where it's going. And in a lot of ways, it's better because, you could just be sitting in your car and watching TV or, I don't know, working or doing whatever you want. I mean, it just completely changes the experience of going from point A to point B potentially. But also, I don't know. I mean, I'm also almost 50 now. There are a lot of elements of the common driving experience that I really don't mind. I like driving a car. I like looking around. I like listening to the music. You know what I actually find myself doing in the car a lot lately? Not listening to anything. Just silence in the car. And I live in the middle of nowhere, so it's usually an hour for me if I'm going to Portland. If I'm going to Seattle, it's a couple of hours.
So you just listen to your brain screaming this whole time?
This is what I've decided. The reason I can do it in the car is because there's just enough going on. And the enough is me looking at the other cars, me checking my speed, it's the perfect amount of engagement of my brain. So I'm not just sitting in a room alone with my thoughts. I am kind of sitting in a room alone with my thoughts, but there's enough happening outside of that room that it doesn't then it's not frightening for me to not have any audio. It's like the closest I get to, like, I guess maybe meditating or, I don't know, reflective, like sitting in quiet reflection. But something when I'm just driving and I don't have the radio on, and I've done this, I drove like all the way to Seattle once doing this. Like, so that would be like 2 to 3 hours. Silence in the car. And it was weird. It was calming. It was like a thunder shirt for me or something. And I found myself doing that more and more now. And I don't know what that says about me, but again, my theory is that there's just enough going on that I'm engaged, but not so much that I'm distracted or something.
Is the same for when you're on your bike? I could see that being something because you don't listen to music on your bike, right? That's too.
I do.
Oh, you do. I wasn't trying to call you
that's
out on
the
that.
vibe. I love. Now, the funny thing is being on the bike and I'm like bombing down the hill by my house or whatever, and I'm listening to the Arcade Fire. I feel like I'm in a.
They're going to say R. Kelly. I'm like, oh, okay, that's a choice. I am surprised. I thought that would be because I guess I'm just a bit. I probably would too. If I had my own bike and I was doing it a lot, I probably wouldn't think twice about putting some earbuds in. But right now, as somebody who doesn't ride bikes a lot, like when I do, I'm just like grabbing one of those green ones or whatever. I usually, what I'll do on those is I'll like strap the phone to the front of the bike and then just play it out of my phone as loud as possible. Because there's something about plugging headphones in that just makes me feel a little too disconnected from the world around me.
That's probably, and particularly like where you are, you're in a much more urban environment. So you probably got to kind of keep your head on a swivel. And you're right. Somebody, probably our friend Lee, who runs the Cascade Bicycle Club, will say, yeah, we don't recommend it or whatever because like headphones, that is, because your lack of awareness. But I love having my AirPods in and listening to like a really epic song and feeling like I'm in a Richard Linklater film. I'm in the movie Boyhood.
Sure,
I'm just really having something
I
happen
know that
to
feeling.
me.
Yeah,
I love that experience. All right, should we, my friend, talk about the latest in the Great TBTL Billboard Hunt? Should we update folks on kind of where things are at?
I think we should. Can we? But do you want to make this a top story? I feel like this feels like a top story to me. This is
okay,
big
but wait,
news.
let me play the top story sound effect.
My apologies. I forgot that we had an intro package for this.
Yeah, those people are all singing about signs, which is why I picked those songs.
Now I get it. You keep telling me that, I keep forgetting.
I know, that's why I try to remind you every time I play it. I want the listeners to understand how much thought went into making that incredible
smart
audio jingle.
Four-dimensional chess.
So Friday was the fifth and final clue, and it appeared to get at least one person over the line on guessing where the TBTL billboard is, where in America it is. And so if I have this right, Andrew, here's the plan. We are going to reveal who the winner is.
Not today. Tomorrow we will.
Yes, with TBTL employee numero uno, John Sklaroff, will stop by. He's been kind of running this whole thing. And then this is the part that I think is actually very fun, and I want to just salute you on this, Andrew, because This is kind of like changing your workflow this week, and this is kind of making pushing some deadlines up for you. But I think almost as much fun as finding out where the billboard is and also who the correct answer came from. I think the actual artwork of this billboard, I am extremely proud of it. As a person who did not do anything at all on the artwork.
Well, you provided some of the content.
I provided some element of it, but this was 100% an Andrew Walsh production, and it is
not 100% sure I want. Let's just say it's a group
so good.
effort.
Here's what I will say about the artwork
when people
of the
see
billboard.
this, you're building this up. It's got a little bit of graphic design is my passion energy about it.
There is not one person, including my daughter, my famously withholding 31-year-old daughter yesterday, Andrew. There's not one person that I have showed the artwork to who has not audibly yelped.
Yeah, well, she was feeling euphoric after
we survived after Final Destination 6,
exactly.
Waymo, Waymo.
That's how you. Whenever I want to laugh, I'm going to try to scare somebody right beforehand,
so that the dopamine is coursing through their brain just out of a near-death experience.
Right.
No, I am so tickled by the actual artwork of the billboard. And so here's the thing. On Wednesday, there's going to be an early edition, much like the television show starring Kyle Chandler. There's going to be an early edition of the TBTL newsletter. And if you have not subscribed to the TBTL newsletter, this is a perfect time to do it because you will be on the list of the first people to actually get an example of the basically, you'll get to see the billboard. You'll get to see what the art is for the TBTL billboard on Wednesday if you subscribe to the TBTL newsletter. How do people do that, Andrew?
People can go to tbtl.net and sign up for the newsletter there. There's a nice box right at the bottom of the main page. You can also go to the Contact Us page. Just tool around there a little bit. We have some fun stuff online. But yeah, sign up for the newsletter at tbtl.net. If you're somebody who used to be signed up maybe in the old system, like back in the APM days, and you realize, I haven't gotten it in a few years because everything switched over when we went independent, this would be a good time to sign back up. Now, listen, here's the plan. I obviously have the art that I'm going to show you in the newsletter on Wednesday as well. But it sounds like things are timing out okay, that we will also, if everything goes according to plan, on Wednesday in the newsletter, you will actually see photos of the billboard along the side of the road. Not mock-ups. I will show you the art that we made.
Because I haven't even seen that.
But we will hopefully have that up there.
We've gotten confirmation of what it will look like, but I have not seen a photo from the ground level of this thing.
By Wednesday, that should be a reality. So sign up for the newsletter, and you will be the first to see it. And then, definitely tune into TBTL tomorrow. We will try not to review about 2 decades worth of movies before we get to John for the big reveal tomorrow about where the billboard is and who our winner is. We'll try to probably move that up a little bit before we start reviewing Bottle Rocket, let's say.
Listen, I'm in Hollywood, California.
That's right.
Andrew. I've got
consideration.
Oh, dude, it's the for you considerationing that goes on in this town even right now. I mean, for all of the stories about the sort of decline of the film industry, which I do believe are accurate. I mean, the here in LA, it's like the industry has really been shrinking because there's so many other places where the tax breaks are better and they're making TV and stuff in Atlanta and Vancouver and Romania and whatever. For all of that, there's apparently still enough in the budgets for hundreds, if not thousands, of billboards right now that are asking for you to consider voting for like Beyonce Bowl, which I guess that was some kind of live concert that Beyonce did.
Okay, sure.
But it was like, I was considering it today as I was jogging on Sunset. I was considering getting into whatever guild gets to vote on best live concert movie or something and vote for that one because they're really they spend a lot of money trying to get people to consider things.
I have a question for you. I'm trying to consider going to Hollywood. When I lived in LA, this might seem counterintuitive based on my personality, but Hollywood was my favorite part of Los Angeles. Like literally just going and hanging out in Hollywood. It just seems so cool in almost its normalcy in a certain way. I would tell you, I'd like just go to like a Bed Bath and Beyond and where there's like a sketchy Spider-Man trying to sell photos. My favorite thing on a Saturday would be to go to Amoeba Records, wander around for a while. I believe that's gone now. And then I would go into the ArcLight cinemas in the big dome and watch
I'm
movies.
looking at the ArcLight cinema.
What's
it is
going on with
up.
it? It's literally boarded up. They haven't even turned into another, like no other chain has bought it. That breaks my heart.
It's a Chipotle.
Oh, God. It's the world's
No,
domiest
it is
Chipotle.
literally boarded up. But Addie said something
Luke.
yesterday. No, but Addie asked me. I didn't know the answer, but she's a little more plugged in now. She lives in L.A. She's kind of monitoring these things. She goes, aren't they reopening that or something? And I said, I do not know the answer.
I hope so.
So what I have as a message of hope is that my daughter thinks she might have overheard that it's being reopened.
Okay,
That's what I can tell you. But
I'm looking
at that.
I'm looking at photos of the dome, the ArcLight dome, but I'm also looking at photos of like the entrance, which was kind of like I think the main entrance sort of didn't face the sidewalk. Maybe for the dome it did, but for the attached building it didn't.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if I ever told you this, but like I lived in LA for like 2 years, right? Very small period of time, but that sort of means that some of my memories there are very sort of condensed. What analogy did you use before? Like some sort of drug that is so powerful you just need a drop of
Adrenochrome?
Adrenochrome. I don't think I'd heard of that before, but like
I don't know if it's even real. I think I learned about it from Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. I think they're taking adrenochrome.
It's unobtainium. It's like just taking a tiny
Exactly.
bit of unobtainium. But like I'm looking at this at the kind of side or maybe rear entrance of ArcLight, which by the way, I never realized how terrible their font was. I wonder if that's one of the reasons they went out of business. Boy, what a terrible font.
It is. Speaking of like papyrus,
Yeah,
which is
right. It's
famously, I believe that was the font for the
Avatar.
Avatar. It
is a bad font.
That ArcLight font is screaming early 2000s. We're being kind of, I don't even know what that font says, but it ain't good.
It ain't good. But seeing it reminds me, and I must have said this to you at some point, but like I belonged to 24-Hour Fitness during that period of my life, which I liked because I could go to any 24-Hour Fitness. I went to a couple of them in Seattle, and then when we moved to LA, I didn't have to switch my account. And there was one in Santa Monica near work I would go to. There was one in Koreatown by my house I'd go to. But sometimes if I had a little extra time, I would go to the 24-Hour Fitness that was in Hollywood or Hollywood, and it was on the second floor, and it overlooked the entrance of the ArcLight. And one of my favorite things to do, like on a, like let's say that it's like maybe a Friday after work or a Saturday, whatever it is, it's still like kind of daylight. Get on one of the elliptical machines that is right in the window on the second floor looking down at the entryway to the ArcLight and just watch people come and go. It's like
judge the people who aren't exercising.
Yeah, it's like at an airport you can tell when planes have just landed or come in because everybody's sort of going in. You can tell when movies were sort of like being let in and let out or whatever. And I would be up there on my little exercise machine, always listening to I remember at this time I'm listening to The Pink Print by Nicki Minaj was a huge one for me here. And I'm just like exercising away and I love people watching and I love movies. I love the idea of going to the movies and just people watching, going to and from the movies. Just, it was like my small happy place during a time that had a lot of unhappy times.
I'm glad to hear you had that though, because I think of your time in LA as being a lot of things that were kind of like challenging for you and that you didn't, really love. So, and I know you've said before that there are lots of things that you really liked about LA. So I know it was not just like a bad experience, but I know exactly what you're talking about, that kind of thing that was like where just everything kind of is aligning and it's like, this is a thing that is going to make, for me, it was, we had a shower at NPR West and on Fridays, because we had to go in really early when I worked on day to day. So I think we got done at like maybe 1 or 2 or something. And it'd be like, I would go on my jog after work and then I would come back and then I would take a shower at NPR West and then I would get all redressed and then I would be heading down to the Tattletale.
Yes,
and
right.
it'd be like a Friday the whole work week is done. I've got my little exercise in, and now I'm going to spend some quality time with Roger and the gang down there. Like, probably after that, maybe end up at Hollywood Park, maybe eat a Pink's hot dog. Like, just that was like, I mean, it's actually really sad that was peak Los Angeles for me. I think your peak Los Angeles is better.
Well,
It's
this is
associating
one
with
aspect
the classic
of it.
movie house.
I mean, let's say there were also a lot of liquor stores in LA too. Do you know that I was like drawn? It's funny, like in Seattle, when I need more whiskey or vodka or whatever it is, like you just get it at the grocery store, you bring it home, whatever. But there was something about LA, like having like, and they were often like pretty shitty establishments, but I kind of didn't care. But like, there was just something about seeing the signs for like liquor mart, liquor store, booze. Like it felt like it activated parts of my brain that made me want to go in and buy liquor. Not even a bar like you're talking about, but it's same with the sandwich shops. Like, well, there's a pastrami shop right next to this liquor store. It'd be like, well, that's all I need to be happy.
Well, yeah, because in the state of Washington and a lot of other states where now, of course, as you mentioned, in Washington, because Costco decided to dump, $1 billion into the lobbying effort, you can buy hard alcohol in the grocery store. But for many years, when I was, younger, you didn't have that. And what you had were state-run liquor stores. And I think there's a lot of places where that is the case. And those are very sterile. It's like the DMV of getting your much needed medicine.
I forgot when I moved here, they still had those. I kind of forgot that when I first moved here, there was one on Capitol Hill, I think. But yeah, you could not be more right. It was just so unfun.
Yeah, it was just because, and that was, I think, probably kind of by design.
Yeah.
They were like, we are the state of Washington. We are selling you liquor, but we are not going to enjoy it. And so in California, if I have it right, I don't think you can buy hard alcohol in grocery stores. I don't think that was changed. And so, or at least for many years, you couldn't. But the place you would get it was not a state of California liquor dispensary. It's just these, as you're right, absolutely just beat to shit buildings on a corner that somehow got like 75 weird Jameson posters blocking up the window and like one tiny door in the back, and it just says liquor, but that's all they need to say to let you know that they've got your stuff in there. It's just this whole kind of weird, it's like almost like the crappier the liquor store that appears to be, the better. And again, because let's be honest, many, not all, but many of the people going in there are probably addicted to the liquor. So again, you don't have to sell them on the product. That's a weirdly specific to LA thing that I think of too.
Yeah, there's just something about it was like being a kid and seeing a candy store sort of. It's like, well, we have liquor at home, but shouldn't we stop at this liquor store that has this big bright sign that says liquor in like the most like
Mommy,
basic font?
Can we have liquor? Honey, we have liquor at home.
We have liquor at home. Then you see the liquor at home and it's Costco brand.
It's not good. It's like homebrew. It's something your mom made. It doesn't taste the same. It's not as good.
Yeah, so there you go. So anyway, sign up for the newsletter.
Absolutely. So you can be amongst the first people to get to see the TBTL billboard. This will be on Wednesday, but tomorrow we are going to have John on, and we'll get an update on who has won the contest. I'm sorry, Andrew, that I'm sort of trailing off here. My hotel happens to sit above this place called SIR, which is, I think it's an equipment rental place. Like it's, I think, a pretty well-known in LA kind of music equipment, but they might also have some kind of a recording studio. I don't know, because they have something called, the alley that I'm looking out on says SIR Artist Entrance. And there are 4 guys getting out of like a Mercedes-Benz right now who, if they are not in Spinal Tap, if it is not Ronnie James Dio, and they've got instruments, like I think they're going in to play a sesh, and they look like it's like they could be in Dawkins. It could be Tommy Wiseau from The Room. It's definitely a whole thing. Like, these are dudes that have their hair dyed jet black. They're not super young. They're going into the artist entrance of SIR, and I want to know the full story. I want to know what they are going in there to record or do.
You know what I need you to do? Now I'm just reliving my Hollywood dreams here, Luke. I need you, and it looks like it still exists, and I've never known how to say this, but I used to talk about it all the time when I lived there. Amatron, or Aimtron.
Oh, I don't know this.
This is the audio video store that's right in Hollywood. It's like right off of Sunset, but my sense of direction is bad. Like I can totally picture where it is. But it would be like when I needed a new mic stand, a new microphone, any kind of like audio video stuff, you went to Aimatron, if I'm saying that correctly. And it's a very unassuming little place, but it was so cool to go there because it's like it's the place in Hollywood. It's where everybody is going for this stuff, but it's also like it's not super expensive, it's not fancy, it's just what I needed. And I don't have anything in my life like that anymore, especially as all the brick and mortar. I mean, Guitar Center is my closest thing, and I love the people at Guitar Center. They've been good to me, but it's no Aimatron. I need you to go to Aimatron and just check the pulse for me, see how it's doing.
Do you need
in there.
anything there?
That is a really good question. I'm racking my brain.
For the upcoming thon?
Maybe buy us a bunch of XLR cables. We always need those.
Okay.
Just
how about mini to mini?
Up.
How are you on mini to mini?
I think we're good on mini. You know what? Throw a couple in the bag. Maybe they'll just throw a couple in for free. Let's see.
Yeah. I'm looking at this place. I'm with you. Like, this is the kind of place that, I mean, you would geek out more because you're kind of in charge of the tech for the show, but this is also stuff that's just like, a whole wall of basically wind screens for your microphone.
Yeah, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and again, nothing fancy about it. Nothing too Hollywood.
No peas will be popped here.
No,
That's right.
no.
All right. Well, you know what? I've got to go down and investigate who this band is, and I also have to go out and eat a bunch of mayonnaise, which I'll give you a report on tomorrow, Andrew, if you're curious.
I mean, or don't. And when I say don't, I mean just don't do it. Like, you don't have the same aversion to it that I do.
It's a tough week for me. I got to try to deftly interview Dana White. I got to eat mayonnaise.
Is that happening in LA too?
No, that's in Vegas. I'm going to Vegas tomorrow afternoon, right after the show, and then I'll be there for the week working on that thing. So people think this TV job, it's all glitz and glamour, but no, sometimes you got to eat the mayo. Sometimes the mayo eats you.
Yeah,
Andrew.
I guess so. What can make interviewing this guy seem better? Well, how about we put you on an assignment where you have to eat a bunch of mayo first, and then
No, it's all about kind of like setting things up in a certain way so that this actually feels like I mean, the thing is, and we'll talk about this more as the week unfolds. The thing about this is, one of the things that is on the schedule to have happen is for me to play Baccarat in a high limit room at the Fontainebleau with this guy. And it's like, to be honest with you, I love everything about that sentence. Except for the particular context of this thing. It gets much more complicated, but it's like, if it was me and Wayne Newton,
right? Yeah.
It'd be like, this would be my literal dream come true. There is so much about this that is for me, except for the concerns around what the ultimate journalistic output will be. Right. Well, it'll be
we'll talk more about that.
Line for the week.
Well, good luck.
All right.
I'm picturing you eating spoonfuls of mayo. I don't know if they're going to put it on anything for you, but I guess we'll get a report tomorrow. Yeah.
Yes. You'll get a full report. I'm going to Waymo over to the shoot location, quite literally, I think.
Nice.
All right. Thank you for listening, everybody. We will be back here tomorrow with more Imaginary Radio for you. So please join us for that. In the meantime, have a great Monday. Take care of yourselves. And please remember, no mountain too tall.
And good luck to all.
Don't bully me, all right? I can't take it. I was cyberbullied within an inch of my life last night.
Power out.